Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the State of the University address. This is always a fun tradition. I love getting together with you guys and telling you about the plans, about what's coming. And I'm especially excited this year to be telling you guys about what's coming because we have some pretty big plans ahead now. I mentioned last year, so I mean, I said this in my Hobbit Day address, but it bears remembering that last year, you'll recall, the theme of the campaign was on the doorstep, right? And that was partly because, we were like right in the beginning, we had just completed the first step of the credentialing process. And so there was that sense, I certainly had that sense very strongly last year that we were on the doorstep, that Signum itself was on the doorstep. There are other ways in which that metaphor works, of course, but in which Signum itself was really on the doorstep of some big things. But if you'd asked me last year, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what they were, right? I could just tell. It's like, when Weed Fodder can smell the change in the wind, right before the charge onto the Pelennor fields. It was kind of like that, right? Or like when Han Khan says wind is changing, right at the very end. That was the sense that I had last year, that we had always planned. The plan for Signum always had been to, maintain our small focused program through this early phase, this startup phase of Signum. But then the time was going to come, right? The moment would arise when it was time to begin not shifting as in turning away, but stepping out and doing more and really expanding Signum. And last year wasn't the time, but I knew that the time was close, and the time is come. We are now in the midst of it. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you guys about, and I'm going to be trying to. My hope here is to share with you guys not only like what the plan is, but kind of the rationale behind it. I really want you to know sort of where I'm coming from here. So I'm going to be taking a kind of an indirect route towards explaining where we're heading. But I hope that will make sense when we get there. And some of it is going to be kind of familiar ground as I go over some things which are kind of really at the core of what Signum is trying to do in the first place. But that's deliberate. One of the obvious questions that arises in people's mind when I talk about the new things that we're planning to do is like, so does this mean we're shifting, we're changing, right? That Signum is growing, is becoming something else. And I want to make it as clear as I possibly can. We're not becoming something else at all. This is the thing that makes me so happy. I have been, ever since the new plan has been formulated, I cannot even tell you the relief that I have been feeling, because when I'm just projecting, when I'm just trying to figure out where we were to go, I couldn't tell. I wasn't sure. I wasn't really sure where we were supposed to go. Again, last year, if you'd asked me, I wouldn't have known. And between last year and this year, there have been some times when I've kind of wondered, I'm like, are we going to have to just go in a different direction? Are we going to have to sell out in some way? Can we really continue in the direction that we are in without compromising our principles, without compromising our vision, for Signum and our identity as Signum? And, there have been times over this last year when I wasn't 100% sure if we would be able to move forward without changing, without really accepting, again, there were days when I thought I was going to be sitting here tonight giving a talk like, well, there comes a time when you have to acknowledge that, we have to make some changes. Like, I thought that was the talk I was going to have to be given, and I was not looking forward to giving that talk. And I'm not giving that talk. So I'm here to tell you at the beginning, this is so exciting to me, not only because it is the next thing, but because it's the next thing down the same path. This path that we show you on this image here, this is a straight path, right, with light shining on it, because it really is straightforward down the road from where we began. And so I'm hoping to sort of show you that. But again, the thing to keep in mind from the beginning, I know that Tolkien studies in particular, and that, imaginative literature, fantasy, science fiction, and Germanic philology also, these are the things that have brought us all together, right? That has been the cornerstone of this community from the very beginning. I want to make sure that it is perfectly clear. I want to make this clear at the beginning and at the end of tonight's talk that Signum is never going to forget Tolkien, right? Tolkien studies is not going away. Nothing that I am going to say tonight means that we are going to diminish by one iota any of the things that we're doing. We're not turning away from anything. We are only adding, we are not subtracting. And indeed, the things that we are looking to move forward and to do are going to enable us to do what we have been doing better and more than we've ever done before. So I want to make sure that that's, again, we're not turning from anything. We are continuing down the road and bringing our fellowship with us as we go. If you think about the approach that we have taken at Signum, you know that not only do we have one program, right? We have our master's degree program. That's the only academic, degree granting, credit bearing program that we have. Is our master's degree program in language and literature. Not only do we just have that one program, we don't even, make any attempt to cover all of language and literature, right? We have a very focused niche, right? We are focused on what in the business world they call a vertical, right? Namely, trying to fill vertically this one narrow but deep niche, right? And that is Tolkien studies, fantasy literature, and Germanic philology. And that has been fantastic. Exactly, Simon. We do one thing and we do it well. And that's been a very deliberate choice over the years. Over the last few years, as our curriculum has been expanding some, there's been a temptation, right? There's been a temptation to kind of branch out more and more, be like, hey, let's do more, later literature. Let's do some 19th century literature. Let's diversify our literature curriculum. There's a real impulse to do that, mostly because that's the way things are usually done, right? That's the way that departments usually operate, right? The standard idea of like a literature program is one that has coverage, right? Coverage is an important thing. But we have made the very determined choice. No, that's not us. That's not what we're going to do. And it's a huge benefit, I think, that we were able to do that. It's been a big part, I think, of Signum's success to this point. So the question becomes, and a lot of people have asked this over the years, like, so what's the next step, right? There are a couple different things that we could do. One would be just to continue to occupy this same vertical, but just to try to do more of it, right? Like we have the master's degree program. So do we expand and like also offer PhD in the same stuff and then maybe go down and do an undergraduate program in this stuff? And those are both very attractive ideas. And I do think we are definitely going to do those things. But that's not actually sort of that's kind of a step forward, but that's not exactly a step forward. That's not really the kind of step forward that we need. We do need to continue to fill our vertical niche even more fully. But that's just kind of the natural growth of our current program. That's not really It's not really the kind of expansion that we're going to need in order to really sort of change the game and build a sort of a solid foundation that's going to enable us to be really confidently sustainable for years to come. So then what, right? Is it about finding, adding, doing a kind of an arithmetic addition of vertical niches, right? Do we need to find another vertical niche or maybe a couple vertical niches that are kind of like it, right? So we're doing, Tolkien studies and Germanic philology and language and literature. Do we need to find, something like Byzantine history? Like we're going to do Byzantine history, right? We're going to do history focused on Byzantium. That's what we're doing, right? That's our second niche. And like Baroque music and, I don't know, like something else, right? There's all kinds, some other kind of fandom thing maybe over there. Who knows? That's one model, right? One model is to say, like, you've got the one niche. Now, next step is add a bunch of other niches, right? Which are similar to that. And honestly, again, if you had sat me down a year ago and made me guess what the next thing was, I might have guessed that, actually. I might have said, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe, the thing that we'll do next is add new niches. But no, that's not what we're going to do. The current plan is a way better and more exciting plan than that. We are going to step out of our niche and add a second niche. But our second niche is going to be it's going to be a step up into a much, it's still focused, but a much roomier niche than the one that we have right now. One of the things that is clear is that Signum University was designed to be able to offer quality interactive humanities courses at scale, right? We have a really solid, wonderful foothold in our current niche, right? I don't want other similar footholds. What we want is to be able to develop a niche which can enable us to bring students in on a completely different scale. That will change the game. That will enable us to really be solid, to have a solid foundation, to be sustainable for the future. And you can probably see why I was having doubts and concerns over the course, at various points over the course of this last year about whether or not we were going to have to sell out to do that, right? I mean, there were dark days when I was like, are we going to have to start like a business program or something like that? Like, do we have to do that? Is that what has to happen? I'd feel so dirty if I just did something like that. But no, that is not, in fact, what we're going to do. So let me explain what we are, in fact, going to do. And here's where I'm going to get a little bit roundabout in order to kind of explain. And part of this is really just kind of following my own line of thinking, because I'm not just trying to like throw darts at a board and like have a list of potential other niches that we could occupy and be like, how about that one, right? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be strategic, not just in like the subject that we choose to teach, but really thinking about where is higher education going. Signum is, I think, and I have been saying this for years now, Signum is, in my opinion, a really wonderful glimpse of what the future of higher education could look like. I'm not saying everybody has to be just like us and do things just like we do, but we are different from most people, and we are different in ways which are generally, I think, very forward-thinking. We are ready for, the new millennium in ways that a lot of our colleagues in the brick and mortar education world are not. And so I'm thinking about what's coming next. And one of the reasons that I've been particularly thinking about this is that the crisis in higher education has been sort of growing and brewing, and my antenna have been quivering about this lately. I have an increasing uncomfortable feeling that change and possibly sudden change is coming in higher education. Because as we know, I mean, I think everybody has at least a vague sense that higher education is in a bit of a mess, right? There is a major dilemma in higher education, and here is the dilemma. The dilemma is that it's a mess no matter what angle you look at it from. There is incredible stress and pressure, both from the point of view of the schools and from the point of view of the seller, the school, and from the point of view of the consumer, the student, right? Everybody is in a bind right now in higher education. And this is why no one has come up with a solution. That's why everybody just kind of looks at the higher education problem and shakes their heads, because this is it's a very difficult situation, right? Like, think about it from the student angle, from the family angle, right? You've got really, really high tuition, and the student debt is absolutely out of control, right? As Thrayan would say, this cannot be borne, right? It can't. Like, it is unsustainable. People should not have to make the choice about going into debt like people are going into debt. It just breaks my heart. Has been breaking my heart for years. It's one of the reasons I founded Signum, because I used to sit in my office when I was a tenured English professor at an independent liberal arts school, and I used to college, and I used to sit there with my English majors and listen to them talk, my graduating seniors going off after graduation with like $80,000 worth of debt and very little in the way of career plans. And I'm like, I mean, it was horrible. I felt like I was, part of the problem. I felt like that, the salary I was bringing home was like blood money, taken from these young people. It was horrible. It's so the tuition situation. It can't continue. It shouldn't continue. And then there's the degree programs themselves, right? Degree program. So like a bachelor's degree, a 4-year bachelor's degree program, 120 credits ish, as they generally are. That's a big time commitment. Now, it's one thing for traditional students. I mean, it's kind of a cultural thing, right? 18 to 22 years old, you go off to college, you spend 4 years at college, and then you start, your real professional life after you graduate from college. Like it's sort of a standard enough part of our culture that people don't really think about it that much. But of course, anytime you get a non-traditional situation, right? You get somebody who wants to make a career change and needs a new degree, right? Or somebody who wants to come back and try to do a bachelor's degree later in life when they're juggling family and jobs and other things, right? It's hard. It's very difficult. It's especially given the amount of tuition you're being charged per year, right? And of course, a lot of people are trying to job that, right? Very sensibly, right? To find ways. I mean, it used to be an unusual thing. It is now a very, very common thing, right? For people to be trying to find ways. Can I, take courses at the community college? Can I do this and that? Can I find a way to reduce the number of years I'm going to college, right? Because then I won't have to pay as much. That's very normal now. At the end of the day, higher education is, as they say in the business world, a big ask, right? I mean, to say, we want you to pay, $60,000 of tuition a year for 4 years. We want you to spend 4 years of your life, and we want you to pay $60,000 a year for the privilege of giving 4 years of your life to us. And in exchange, we will give you a bachelor's degree. That's asking a lot. Right? It's a major, major investment of time and money, and with massive future consequences, as so many people have to, go into debt in order to do that. What this means, of course, is that you think about, those are the things, right? Give me 4 years of your life, give me $250,000 of your money, so give me $250,000 in 4 years of your life, and in exchange, I will give you this bachelor's degree. What that has created, right, is an intense pressure on the institution now, right? Because people are very sensibly saying, okay, so what's my return on investment? Right? I'm going to give you $250,000 in 4 years of my life. I better be getting, and I'm going to be indebted. Like I'm not going to be able to buy a house for the next 10 years because I'm going to be paying off my student debt. So I won't be able to afford, a mortgage or something. Okay, so I will do that, but I will only do that if the return on investment is good enough, right? And this, of course, turns around and puts the schools themselves in this bind, right? Because they also are under incredible pressure. First, they are under pressure from the really, really high costs of their operation. A lot of people don't understand. Even schools which appear wealthy, right? You stroll around the campus and you say, wow, this place is loaded, right? It's hard. Campuses are usually designed to give you that impression. Like that is part of the fronting that colleges are often doing in order to convey to you that, there's a lot of money here. And there is a lot of money there. But they are spending a lot of money. Their campuses are enormously expensive. There are a large number of schools, especially like private liberal arts schools, which operate on a very, very narrow margin, where only a small drop. I think that there are many, many schools in the country which, if their student enrollment dropped by 10%, they would go bankrupt because they cannot possibly pay their bills. if they fall short of their goals. And this is true, as I say, I do think that, private, private liberal arts schools are some of the ones at the greatest risk for this. But this is true of bigger schools too. I mean, right now, and this is public information, in the state of New Hampshire, we're having a little bit of a mini crisis, which they're trying to not talk about all that much. But UNH, our state, we have one state system. The University of New Hampshire is our major state university. And their undergraduate class is coming in with a 10% enrollment shortfall this year. They are 10% under projected enrollment for undergrad this year. And it is causing a very serious budgetary shortfall at UNH. I don't think they're going to go bankrupt this year, but it is a strain. It is a significant strain on UNH, and there is some quiet urgency going on behind the scenes in Durham and Concord trying to solve this situation. It's a big deal. And this is again, colleges live really close to the bone. Why? Because their costs are enormous. It is very, very expensive to run a campus. Many of us listening, many of you listening to this are homeowners. I'm a homeowner, and what it's like to be locked into a money pit, right? One of those houses that you just have to pour money after money after money in order to keep it up. There are a lot of college campuses like that, which just cost massive sums of money. And often, there'll be very successful capital campaigns that they'll be doing that, be like, hey, we raised $25 million in order to build this shiny new building. That's fantastic. Great. Wonderful. Excellent. It'll be beautiful for about 3 years. And then they'll have to pour more money in to maintain it. And then it becomes part of the regular cycle. And of course they've got to heat it and everything else. And the equipment in it is going to be obsolete in a couple of years. And a couple of years down the road, it just becomes part of the increasing financial burden year by year, on the budget. It's a really big problem. The second problem with higher education is that, the situation is changing, right? The old transaction, you give me $250,000 in 4 years of your life and I'll give you a bachelor's degree in exchange. There's increasing tension in that, right? And so there is a need. Everybody in higher education can see, we need to maybe change how we do some things. Right? Maybe this is not going to work out exactly like this. Maybe we need to be thinking in some new ways about this. But you know what? Most universities are not really designed to change the way that they do things they're not exactly responsive, right? Most universities, even comparatively small colleges, are like really, really enormous boats, right? That take like a 10-mile turn radius, right? In order to turn around. It's just the way that they're set up. I mean, conceptually, right? I mean, if you think about it, universities have been sort of first and foremost created in order to preserve knowledge and traditions, not to be innovative and forward thinking and pushing the envelope, right? A lot of schools like to talk that way. But in general, their policies and structures are not very flexible. It's hard to innovate, and it would certainly be hard for them to change the direction and the system of the entire university. I mean, after all, a lot of their systems are literally set in stone, right? We pay. I mean, you'd be surprised how many decisions are made on college campuses just in order to we would like to stop doing this, but we have this whole building, right? And if we stop this program and do something else, then what are we going to do with that building, right? We won't have a program there anymore, and it would be an embarrassment to sell it. It's right in the middle of our campus, so we still have to keep doing something with that building. I mean, those are kinds of things that really factor in to brick and mortar campus decisions. But again, we still have that pressure to deliver the return on investment for students, because the students, the consumers are looking more and more sharply at that thing that is being offered to them in exchange for their $250,000 and the 4 years of their life, right? And so a lot of schools, that pressure is driving a lot of program change. Right. Let's reevaluate our majors and our thing. They're not going to change fundamentally what they do, but if we can kind of prioritize programs that are that appear to give to students, a higher return on investment and de-emphasize some of the others, maybe that will help. We'll come back to that particular move, to that particular problem a little bit later on. So I have, thought from the beginning. I mean, one of the reasons that I founded Signum, and I've been really, really happy with this and seen this grow over the years, Signum really does offer a solution to a lot of these problems. By lowering our costs, right? Step one, Signum University has no campus. We pay for no real estate, and it is our goal to never have a piece of real estate ever, anywhere. As a result, our costs are tremendously lower. Even if we pay all of our people above more than what anybody else pays their people, our fixed costs will still be way, 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 way lower than any other campus, because we're not trying to support, to shovel money into the big, huge money pit. So that means, of course, that we can lower tuition in ways that nobody else can lower tuition. There are other people who lower tuition because they're supplementing their bottom line with government funding, right? That's not lowering tuition. I mean, it's kind of nice to shift the burden of that, or to spread the burden of that onto the taxpayers instead of just making the students go into debt. I mean, I guess that's kind of okay, but that's not a solution. I love Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders' solution to higher education is not a solution. It's just a way of using tax dollars to underpin the entire failing system, essentially. It's like a big old bailout, which doesn't change anything. And again, just shifts the burden from the students to the taxpayers, which is not, it's a change, but it's not a solution. So that's like the very first thing that Signum changes, right? The Signum approach is we reduce our tuition by reducing our costs. So it's just, and that is the simplest, easiest, most honest way in which we can reduce what our students have to pay. We also, of course, have a great deal more flexibility, like orders of magnitude more flexibility than most brick and mortar institutions. We are new. We are a new young startup. We are open-minded, ready to try new things. We are not invested in old models and old systems. And indeed, it's been part of our culture from the beginning to question those systems. There are many things about traditional academia that I love, that I respect, that I want to preserve. But there are many ways, and all of us who have worked in higher education know there are a lot of ways in which it really could be improved upon. There really could be some better ways of doing things. There are some flaws, certainly, with the way that higher education operates. And so we've been able to, we are systematically able to think outside that box. We are also deliberately organized in a way that's designed to maximize our ability to respond to developing student needs, to shift and grow in new ways. This, what I'm talking to you guys about tonight is one example of that. We really are able to respond very, very much. We can turn on a dime compared to what other institutions are able to do. And so I'm really excited about our ability to adapt and adjust in whatever the new climate of higher education becomes. But of course, most importantly, we're not making that big ask to our students, right? We're not asking anybody for $250,000 and 4 years of their life, right? We are because we have lower tuition, our goal is to keep our tuition low enough that people can afford to pay their own way through school, right? I never want full-time tuition at Signum University to be higher than somebody can earn in a reasonable part-time job while they're doing school, right? So that a student, even like an 18-year-old student, could put themselves through school by the work that they're able to do while they do it, so that they don't have to go into, so that they can emerge at the end of their undergraduate career or their graduate study without debt, right? With just the world before them and nothing weighing them down, with no anchors that they are dragging. So yes, imagining a world without student debt and, he speaks as a parent, a world without college savings accounts. That's another thing I would kind of like. It's okay, parents, just save money towards your retirement instead of saving money towards your college education of your kids. That's another little vision of mine, I have to admit, says the father of the 16-year-old son. This enables us to deliver a more radically customizable education. That's one of the things that we are able to do because of the kinds of flexibility that are built in to the Signum system. And the result for us as an institution, not only do we create a better world for our students, we are in a better world. It gives us a kind of freedom that almost no other institution enjoys, right? So we don't have to go around scrutinizing departments, asking how much are they paying off, right? Is this department providing the kind of return on investment that our students need? No, we can create academic freedom by saying, you know what, like, we're going to teach the things that we think are important and the things that our students value, not because they're like, what's going to lead me to the highest possible salary I can get so I can get out of debt soonest, right? But rather, what is going to enrich my life? Letting people choose, so that, again, giving the students the freedom to choose, giving us the freedom to offer, right? I mean, oh man, it's just the reduction of that pressure all around, which I think is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So what is the direction that we're moving? Well, I was talking about that return on investment issue, right? And the problem here is the humanities. The humanities are what, humanities subjects, of course, language and literature is what we've been doing. It's been one of the things that has set Signum apart from the beginning. Back in 2011, when we started up, it was right near the beginning of the boom of online education, a little bit before the primary boom. We were kind of in there first before it went mainstream. What was happening then, were the first big MOOC experiments and things like that. That is the idea of, through online education, being able to offer education flexibly and at scale, right? In an efficient way at scale. And a lot of people were, kind of scratching their heads and saying, how do you offer humanities at scale? Because, you can offer math courses and computer science courses at scale because you can arrange, assessments, tests and quizzes and things like that, which computers can grade, right? So it doesn't matter. Like, you can have 10,000 students and it's not going to affect you because you just have, your lecturer and you have, your assessments, which can be graded by machines. And so therefore you can have any number of students and it's fine. But they're like, oh man, humanities, like, if you got 10,000 students, how do you grade 10,000 papers? So of course, most of these people were comp sci folks. And so their attempt to solve this problem was to go out and try to design computer programs and algorithms that would do a better and better job of grading papers for you. And we didn't succeed very greatly, I think. Signum has always been designed to offer humanities courses, interactive, live discussion humanities courses at scale. Our scale has been comparatively small so far. Not so small as all that, actually. I mean, if you compare our master's degree program to similar programs, right, to other master's degree programs in literature, say, right, look at other MA programs. I mean, I certainly at my alma mater, there were not a third of the students that we have at Signum in our master's degree program. So for a department, for a master's degree program in language and lit, we're pretty big, right? For that being our entire university population, it's pretty small. Yeah, exactly. Hologro. Coursera is one of the things that emerged from that time of MOOCs. They were one of the in that same discussion back in those days. But again, Signum has always been focused on synchronous education, and we love the humanities. I love the humanities. That's what we do. And this is where I'm coming back to what I was talking about before about that return on investment issue. Right? Because humanities programs worldwide are under severe pressure. And the pressure comes from that return on investment thing, right? So you've got that huge ask that the universities are doing, and the students are like, okay, what am I going to get for this? And so they come into humanities programs saying, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I had this conversation, mostly with students' parents more than with students, but still, how many times when I was just an English professor, I had this discussion when people said, okay, is this going to help her career? Is she going to be able to get a job if she's an English major, right? And it was super frustrating. Actually, answering that question was really frustrating because the honest answer to that question is the elvish answer, right? Where I sort of, one has to say both no and yes. Because on the one hand, the answer is certainly yes. On the one hand, studying, majoring in the humanities as an undergraduate, the humanities is like ridiculously valuable for almost everything, right? I mean, when you think back to the medieval liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, and rhetoric, right? That was the foundation. That's where everybody started for a reason, right? And up until, about 150 years ago, everybody believed that, a sort of linguistic and literary education was the best preparation for public life, right? And I don't just mean political life. I mean, every job, right? Every profession, everything that you did, everybody started off, learning the classics and studying literature, because the trivium is where it all begins, right? That's where you build, the sort of the fundamental intellectual skills, which are going to be applicable to everything that you do. And it is still true today. There is absolutely no possible career that you could go into in which skills that you learn in the humanities will not benefit you. Like, you will be benefited by humanities, by the skills that you learn in the humanities, no matter what career you go into. And the things that you learn, the things that you gain from studying the humanities, things like clear communication skills, persuasive writing skills, good presentation skills, sensitive interpersonal analysis, close reading, logical argumentation, all of these things that you get from humanities. These are things that employers really, really value in their employees. And what's more, these are the kinds of things that tend to lead to advancement, right? I mean, if you've got 3 engineers, right, 3 in the new pool of engineers, and there's one of them, and they're all like doing fine in their engineering, right, in their hard skills, but there's one of them that is a really clear communicator, can write a really good paragraph, can communicate dependably and clearly in her emails, right? That's the person who's going to get promoted, right? That's the person who is going to, whom the people are going to be like, okay, that's future manager material right there, right? This is somebody that we should really cultivate. Yeah, exactly. So it's, so on the one hand, the answer to the question, is this going to help, my daughter's career? Absolutely. Totally. Yes. Very strongly. And I'm ready to defend that. But on the other hand, no, humanities as they're traditionally taught are not necessarily very helpful. That is, if you go, if you're in a liberal arts school and you become an English major, for instance, just to speak of what I know best, right? Though this is true of other humanities disciplines as well, certainly. So if you go and you become an English major, what are you going to do? You're going to gain many skills which are very applicable and very useful. However, your studies, like your actual coursework, is going to be almost entirely focused on the discipline. That is the discipline of literary study. and you are going to be trained up through your, senior capstone project, which is probably going to be a written thesis of some kind. As if you're going to be trained up as if you're like going to go pro as a literary scholar, right? You're like, we work in English departments to make our students into excellent little literary scholars, right? Except the problem is, and we know this, only like 1 or 2% of our students are ever going to go on and become professional literary scholars, right? Although there's no possible career in which humanities skills won't help you, the applicability of the work that you're doing in your humanities major is often concealed, not only from you, the student, but from your future employer, right? Employers themselves don't really know. They need help parsing what it means that you were an English major, right? There are ways in which you can clearly indicate to employers, yeah, I'm an English major, right? And, you can see what that means, right? And what that means I'm going to be able to offer you that a lot of your other potential employees or current employees won't be able to offer you. But we don't do that. In general, programs don't do that for students. They don't help students with either end of that. As Simon says, fewer than half of PhDs even stay in academia, let alone everyone who gets a bachelor's degree. Exactly. The applicability of the humanities programs tends to be concealed or downplayed or just neglected when it should be being spotlighted. One of my premises here, therefore, is we can do this better. I think we can definitely do this better. This is our new niche. This is the new niche that Signum is moving into. The humanities, the interdisciplinary humanities, and really trying to help people, whether it's both our students and help people outside in the outside world, people to whom our students are going to be applying, to understand better the value. They already get it. Again, employers don't need to be taught. They know that they love the kinds of skills that a humanities student brings in, right? Brings with them. But we can help to sell that better. We're not just going to launch a second master's degree program like our current master's degree program. We are going to develop the humanities program for the modern world, which also means secretly that we're kind of going back to the medieval model, but don't tell anybody that. Those two things are kind of the same thing. So let me tell you a little bit about what that program is going to look like. So let me describe Signum in 10 years, right? 10 years from now, what do I think Signum University is going to look like? We're going to have a large interdisciplinary humanities program. And at the foundation of this, at the bottom of this, and I say bottom in the sense of the first point of entry, the easiest point of entry, and also broadest base, right? Broadest appeal to the widest audience is going to be a set of career skills courses and badges. These are going to be short courses, which will accumulate to a series of obviously useful and applicable badges. Okay. And they will focus on the most essential, the most simple application of humanities skills in practical life. They will be focused on the actual study of the humanities, like we'll actually read stuff and do humanities work in these things and help people to develop the kinds of skills that work develops. I'll show you some more details about this later on. These courses are not going to be linked to a degree. These are not degree courses, and there's no prerequisites for these courses. The target audience for these courses is everybody, basically everybody. We are going to be focusing on offering courses. So this is for people who are currently professionals, right? Who are currently in a job, who know that there are some that they're being held back, right? Like, that if you could write more dependable, that things might be easier for you in your office if you weren't getting so many complaints about the reports that you write, right? If you could if you could feel more confident writing lucidly, it would be much better, right? You know that you have to give presentations and you need to present ideas, and things would go better for you if you were better at doing that, if you knew better how to do that. These are the kinds of skills that, again, like studying the humanities really helps with these things. And we believe that we can really help people who need, again, whether they're in a job and want to be able to move their career further. They feel like you're stuck in a rut, right? And you need to be able to show, no, I can do different. I have more than just the hard skills, right? And I can develop in some new ways. Or whether you're entering the job market, right? Or entering a new job market, and want to make yourself more marketable in different ways, to improve your own skills. As I said, no prerequisites, short courses, focused skill-based badges, and none of this is for a degree. This is just for building these particular skills. Then on top of that foundation is our undergraduate program. And our undergraduate program, and I'll give a little bit more detail about our undergraduate program as well later on. The central tier is a program in the interdisciplinary humanities, where people are going to be trained in, at sort of the lower level of the undergraduate program, the entry level of the undergraduate program, trained in essential skills that different humanities disciplines offer. So it's kind of the next step forward in some ways from the career skill, like the lower end would be the next step forward from the career skills program. So from really basic writing skills, like making sure you can write emails that make sense and don't insult people, and make sure that you can write a report that is grammatical, B, readable, and C, maybe even persuasive. That kind of thing, right? That's what the career skills is focused on. But if you want to go further, right, to develop things like research skills, right, more advanced practice in writing and argumentation and things that you get through literature classes, history classes, philosophy classes. That's the sort of kind of the lower level, the intro level of the undergraduate program. And then, of course, we would also offer a bachelor's degree so that people can choose to go on and complete a bachelor's degree and specialize in a particular program. Like, say, it might be language and literature with a focus on Tolkien studies, which will certainly be among the options. But again, the undergraduate program is conceived fairly broadly. I'll get a little bit more into the structure of that a little bit later. But then the top tier above the undergraduate program are graduate programs. And here is where our current master's degree in language and literature is kind of our model, and will be our template for other things that we will add then as well. And my goal here is that we have master's degree programs and doctorate programs also in a number of the humanities disciplines which contribute to our undergraduate or to our interdisciplinary undergraduate humanities program. So we would have a master's degree and a PhD in language and literature. We have an MFA. Presumably, I think we'd have an MFA, but we can also do an MA and a PhD in history and in philosophy and in music, right, and in various others of the humanities disciplines. And that, those are all sort of natural growths. And the idea is that we want to provide humanities training at all levels, right? From the basic skills, like basic skills for tech professionals, right there in the foundational level, through undergraduate study of the humanities onto advanced doctorate work, right? So that we are both showing the broad applicability of the humanities at the lower levels, accessible to everyone, and benefiting everyone. But then also adding on top of that advanced study for people who do, because, even if there are only 2% of your students who go on to become professional scholars, well, that 2% still needs somewhere to go, right? And I would love to offer that. So anyway, so that's the sort of that's the vision. Another way to think kind of in the big picture of how this all fits together. I love our Germanic philology program. in the MA program, and it's been one of the things that it's been one of the most satisfying elements of our master's degree program over the last couple years. The way in which our Germanic philology program has really grown and developed, and the excitement that I've seen from people around the world to come and take philology courses with us. People who are so excited to get the opportunity to learn Old Norse and Anglo-Saxon and Germanic philology and begin to build all this stuff. Philology, of course, as many Tolkien fans know, was back in Tolkien's day the dominant academic discipline, right? It was absolutely huge, and it has been dying. I mean, it's practically dead. I mean, it's you could say that it was mostly dead even, but mostly dead is still partly alive. And that's the state of Germanic philology right now. And Signum University is, and I've been saying this for a couple of years, I believe that Signum University has the only growing Germanic philology program on planet Earth. It's shrinking everywhere else, but it's growing at Signum, right? It is thriving at Signum. And it warms my heart as a lifelong Tolkien fan. It warms my heart. I am not myself a philologist, right? And it's been since, I won't say since I was a kid, but at least since I was in college, it has been one of my sort of regrets as a Tolkien reader and as a Tolkien fan and later a Tolkien scholar, that I just don't share Tolkien's passion for language. I don't dislike languages. I like language and language study, but I don't have Tolkien's penchant for it. It doesn't resonate with me the way it did with Tolkien. So I've always felt sort of sorry that I couldn't, participate in sort of the world of philology that Tolkien occupied and loved. So it makes me really happy to think that our program at Signum could potentially help contribute to preserving and even offering a local kind of renaissance in the study of this field, which was so dear to Tolkien's heart. I love the idea, the fact that we have already begun to create a shelter, what I hope and trust will be a long-term shelter for the study of Germanic philology. It may be dying everywhere else, but it's booming at Signum. And because we are the kind of online program we are, because we're not attached to any geographical location, all of the people who would have wanted to study philology at all the other schools in the world, it's okay. It can die everywhere else because they can come here and they can study it here no matter where they are and no matter what else they're doing. My vision, therefore, for 10 years from now, is that I would like Signum to be a shelter for the study of the humanities in the same way, right? It's a bigger shelter, right? It's going to need a larger house, metaphorically speaking, but that's okay. We can do that. I know that the study of the humanities is on the decline elsewhere. I know that, there are programs all around the country right now, departments, academic departments which are being eliminated because schools, administrations are looking hard at they're really on the edge budgetarily, right? And they're like, we've got to make cuts somewhere. And hey, look, we've only got 3 music theory majors. Do we really need a music theory department? Oh, we've only got 4 performing arts majors. Do we really need a performing arts? And goodness, we could cut out the whole studio, right? My goodness, we'd save so much money if we cut performing arts, right? These are the kinds of conversations that are going on everywhere around the country. And that makes me sad. But like Germanic philology, I think that we can do humanities and do humanities better. I think that we can create a shelter from top to bottom, from doing a better job than schools are currently doing of showing how necessary the study of the humanities is, not just for people who dig the humanities, but for everybody, right? Everybody needs these skills. And we as humanities teachers can offer them. We have, in our charge, one of the most useful sets of skills in the entire world. And we're totally not taking advantage of that. We're totally not helping people with that. And we need to do that. But also on the top end, right? To have Signum also be a place where the advanced study, research, and teaching in the humanities, training doctoral students and future scholars to ensure that these disciplines all continue and go on and move forward over the years. That's my picture. So the humanities in this way, it's a much roomier niche, as I said, than our old one. But as you can see, this is not just we're doing this, now we're adding this other thing over here. This is really taking what we do and broadening it out, continuing to do what we do, but refocusing our vision. Okay, so so let me show you. This is like, that was like my hop forward like 10 years. But of course that's not all going to be built in a day, right? That's not the next step is not everything, because we can't do everything all at once. So let me show you a little bit about how this is already begun to grow organically and how it's going to continue growing organically over the next few years. In 2017, I introduced the image of the tree. This on the left-hand side is the tree that I introduced back in 2017. It's just a little old sapling, right? Which was where Signum was as long ago as 2 years ago, which seems like forever in Signum world. Where Signum University, we have the one branch, which is the Mythgard Institute, our public programs in language and literature, the Signum Academy, which was just a little shoot at that time, and is still a fairly slender branch that is beginning to grow and put out new little branches. Signum Academy, of course, is our program for K through 12 students. A lot of focus on reading, sort of extracurricular reading programs and enrichment programs like that. And then, of course, the central stock was the Signum Graduate School, our MA program in language and literature. And that's sort of what we had. The new version of the tree, as we have grown and our canopy is starting to broaden a little bit. Here, let me let me actually show you. That'd be helpful. So the new tree is the one new piece of nomenclature that I wanted to introduce is we're calling this the Signum College, mostly because when I'm trying to explain the vision, I'm trying to lay things out like, for people, I don't know, perhaps like accrediting bodies and stuff. I needed a way to describe all of our academic programs together. I needed, I wanted a collective identity for our higher education programs. So we've got the Mythgard Institute still, the Signum Academy still, and instead of just we're calling the Signum Graduate School because we're building more than just the graduate school, we have the Signum College, and the school is now disciplinary specific, right? With the School of Language and Literature, that's where our master's degree program lives. And so far we've had this category, but we've only had still the one thing, and it is time for us to build our new branches here. The first shoot of our new growth, the first step in our development of our humanities program, is what we're calling Signum Path. This is the career skills program that I was describing before, that broad foundational beginning of the program. That's the very first thing that we're going to be unfolding, the first step that we're going to take forward. And it's really exciting to think about this. Now, when we do this, we have to be really careful. We have to be really careful because we're taking a big step forward, and we have to make sure that we don't step forward before we can support it, right? Before we have the infrastructure. And the infrastructure has always been our biggest challenge. I mean, as I've shared with you guys at many points in the past, most of our staff are still volunteers. So the infrastructure of our university, the people who are doing all the things and, making the things happen behind the scenes outside the classroom, it's been interesting. It's been tricky from time to time there. building out our foundation so that we can become sustainable, professional, fully staffed, is the first goal. And so we need to step forward in a way that's going to be deliberate and that is going to be strategic, so that we can make sure that we can support it. That we don't want to step out further than we can go. So the Signum path is our first step down that path. We're calling it that because it's a metaphor that really appeals in lots of ways, to enable people to empower people to pursue their path, to choose their own path, and make their own way, giving people the kinds of resources that they need in order to get where they want to go, is what we really want to be doing. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit more in detail about what that's going to look like and what we're planning to do over the next year, essentially. So Signum Path, as I said, this is our career skills program. We're going to do a preliminary launch of the Signum Path program in January 2020. I say preliminary because it's kind of a soft launch. Well, again, what we can't afford to do yet is just like open the doors and, hope lots and lots of people come in. We want to do a sort of a controlled launch, ideally with groups of people, so that we can if you think about it, the first 8 months of 2020 will be almost like a beta release of the Signum Path program. It's not a perfect metaphor, but it will be almost like that, actually. The two things that we really want to the two things that we really want to focus on in our first release are, so there's two things that I've put there. There's the specific target that we have, and then there's sort of the general category. And let me explain both. First, our corporate programs, meaning if we are looking for managers, CEOs, human resources directors, people who know that they have a company with a bunch of people who could really benefit from this kind of training. Especially, and our focus is going to be initially primarily in the tech arena, though, we're open to other possibilities, but our initial concept is focusing on where we're dealing a lot with engineers and programmers whom we know, there's been a lot of discussion about the need in those industries, I should say, for these kinds of soft skills. So again, the concept of the corporate programs is that these are customized groups, right? Customized programs that we would offer to particular groups. So again, the kind of typical concept that we have for that is a company. So we've got a company who says, okay, we've got 15 people who could really benefit from getting these badges with you. Maybe your writing badge and your oral presentation badge. So let's bring those 15 people together. We then will customize a program for them, which really focuses on what their company does, right? The kinds of assignments that the students will be doing over the course of the mini courses as they're earning their badges will be tailored to the work that they're actually doing at their company and everything, so that we can really customize those for that set group of students, which we bring through the program. The other option is, our other initial target is to schools, specifically coding boot camps. This is been kind of a growing thing. These programs where you attend this boot camp program, which is like 14 weeks long, in order to learn how to code, right? So you're learning JavaScript or something like that. And the idea is that after 14 weeks of intense training, at the end of it, you have the skills that you need to get a job as a JavaScript programmer. Right? That's great. And that's a cool idea, and I love it. But here's the problem. those students who are coming out of those programs have been taught literally nothing other than than how to program in JavaScript, right? Those programs promise nothing more than that, right? And I have a shrewd suspicion, based on conversations that I've had with people in the industry, that there are a lot of graduates from those programs who could really benefit from a program like ours. So the way that that's going to work, unlike with the corporate programs, those would be, again, a group of people come, they're sent to us, right? And we customize our program. We customize our courses, whichever badges they want to pursue. With the things like the coding schools, that would be what I call a system referral, right? So we'd have a relationship with the school where they, we're not a part of their program, we're not affiliated with them officially, in any kind of institutional way, but basically we just take referrals from them. So we come to them and say, hey, we know that a bunch of your graduates really need help, and it would really benefit you as a school wouldn't it be nice if more of the people who graduate from your school were given other skills that would help them to succeed, because career success is really kind of what these schools base their whole reputation on, right? So wouldn't it be nice if we could help teach them some skills that could help them find a better job and move up within the job that they get? So those schools refer students to us, and then we take those students. So we're dealing with the students individually. We're not kind of taking a body of students from the school or being an official part of their curriculum. We're just taking referrals from them. So I can imagine, by the way, either one of these kinds of program, either the customized groups or the system referrals, happening in other kind of contexts, right? So if there were another group of people, not a company, right, not a corporation, who said, we want to do this, right? We want to bring our people together and give them these skills. I'd be very open to that. If there were some other kind of group, another kind of school, or another kind of institution, which would want to set up a referral relationship with us, who thinks that their people would really benefit from this kind of thing, would be very interested to do that. Like, to give another example that was brought to my attention recently, which I hadn't thought of, which I think is a great idea. People who are brokers for contractors, right? Companies which have a group of contractors who get sent out on contract, and they organize contracts for them at different companies and stuff. For an institution like, for a company like that to use our program as referrals for their people, right? It's like, hey, you would be able to bring in even more money as a contractor if you could, improve some of your skills in these ways. So they might come in and bring in, you'd be able to improve your prospects, so they could make referrals that way. There are other ways, other kinds of groups that I can imagine. I can imagine some companies perhaps operating on a referral basis rather than a customized group basis. I could imagine other kinds of organizations that might want to not do a customized program, but refer people to us. I'm very open to any of those, any ideas and possibilities there. Simon, it is true, the tuition for customized groups would definitely be higher because there's more work involved for us. Again, we're producing a customized curriculum for those groups based upon their institutional needs and stuff. So that would be higher than when we are charging the individual people. Yeah. So what skills, for example, Aslan's Compass asks? Good question. I'll show you that in just a second. I'll show you some examples in just a second. So this is what we're looking to do in January. You'll notice the reason we're wanting to start with these focused groups, right? Whether it be groups of people who come together, like from corporations, or whether it be partnerships with things like schools, like the coding boot camps, who can give us, groups of referrals every time they graduate a class, right? The reason we're wanting to, again, it enables us to have a controlled launch so that we can make sure that our infrastructure is prepared for each thing as we develop this brand new program for us and get it together. The goal, though, our target is by September 2020. So in the fall of next year, we want to open this to everybody. We want to do open registration so that we would offer these courses for, again, anybody. Because again, I do not think that there is a single person in the world for whom these skills are not relevant. And I think that lots of people would really benefit from being able to develop their soft skills, as we call them. Yeah. And Erica, I do agree. Yeah, I do realize that there are going to be definitely ebbs and flows with companies, that sometimes this will, we'll get groups from companies and then maybe they'll pull back. Yep. Totally agree. This is not going to be, that's not going to be the only model. As I said, my goal is open registration. I want to be able to have this available to everybody. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So, let me show you about, wrong way. Here are a couple of the badges that we are planning to offer. The names of the mini courses might possibly change, but it should give you an idea. Again, the way that our career skills courses are organized is to have mini courses, and our mini courses are about, okay, well, there will be two different ways in which they're going to be delivered. There can be two different delivery options. One is the concurrent option, so that you can just kind of take it in the background. People who are familiar with our Signum program will be familiar with the kind of thing, like 2 sessions a week, 2 meetings a week. So definitely something that you can easily do in the background while you're still working and doing other things during the day. Or we're going to offer an intensive version where people can do the sort of the boot camp version of it, to do a mini course in like a week, basically. Even that wouldn't be exactly full time. It probably would not take you 40 hours in the week to do it in the 1 week. But anyway, we'll do an intensive version of it. Anyway, so this is so 3 of our mini courses grouped together to form a badge. So these are 3 of the badges that we're looking to offer first: a badge in basic writing, a badge in critical analysis, and a badge in interpersonal skills. And the sub bullets there are the titles of the mini courses that add up to that badge. So for basic writing, you would do storytelling, you would do nuts and bolts, how to write well, and transactional writing. That is like how to take a bunch of information and turn it into coherent prose, that kind of thing. Critical analysis. The critical analysis badge would be, you do a mini course on constructing an argument, on critical thinking, and on close reading. The interpersonal skills badge would include mini courses on conflict management, emotional intelligence, and verbal, nonverbal, and visual communication. These are the kinds of soft skills that we are talking about. Erica, the reason that we're calling them badges and not certificates is two reasons. One, we already used the word certificate for something else, and so I don't want to confuse our nomenclature. But 2, certificate has a kind of, there's an air of finality about certificates, right? Usually when you get a certificate, you're done with the program, right? That's normally, there's some kind of association with that, right? But that's not how our badges are designed, right? Our badges are just, many people could, maybe you choose 1 badge and do 1 badge. Maybe you choose 2 badges. Maybe you collect all 6 badges and take a bunch of our different badges as they're offered. People can kind of group them together differently. So it's easier to talk about, to think of it in terms of badges. Plus, it's also, it's becoming increasingly popular nomenclature within higher education. It's something more and more people are talking about, the idea of badges and badging. Because badges, unlike certificates, which are generally associated with programs, badges are associated with like particular skills, right? To say like I have achieved competency in this skill, so you get a badge for that, right? I mean, you know, kind of like the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, right? That's kind of the metaphor behind it. Like you get your badge in knot tying, right? By accomplishing certain knot tying tasks, right? It's the same kind of concept. Yeah. Simon, I'm not promising that that we'll have a cool sash that you can put badges on, but I'm not going to absolutely rule it out either. Anyway, so yeah, as Curtis is reminding me, one of the ideas here, of course, is that you can display badges like this on, you know, social media profiles and like, you know, like on your LinkedIn profile and stuff like that. And again, these kinds of things are becoming increasingly common for job searchers right now to be able to show like I have earned a badge in this and that. These are skills that you can count on from me. And this is one of the things. This is one of the ways in which, remember, I was talking about how I want to emphasize not only for our students, the applicability of the humanities courses that they take and skills that they learn, not only teach them more, show them more about the applicability of that in the outside world, but also be working on helping to train the outside world to see that and to receive that. The badging system is one of the ways in which that's going to happen. I see, by the way, these are path badges, right? Again, these are the non-degree focused, no prerequisite, everybody can do them kinds of badges, right? At the undergraduate level, I see us still doing a similar thing. So looking up towards our undergraduate program in the future, and again, my goal is I'm aiming for a fall 2021 launch. It's going to take a little longer because we have a lot more to put in place. In particular, that connects with our credentialing in important ways, right? We are still in the process of completing our accreditation process. Yes, that's still happening. And once that does happen, then of course we will also have to get our new undergraduate, if we're going to do a BA program, we have to get that approved by the state and by the accreditors. So there's more background stuff that needs to be put into place before we can launch the undergraduate program. But the goal is that we're aiming for the fall 2021 launch of our undergraduate program. And we're not just going to be following the traditional BA template. This is not going to be just a BA program in the way in which BA programs have always been run. I think there need to be many paths through our undergraduate program. There need to be many points of entry and many points of exit because there are a lot of people that can benefit from the kind of training you get from undergraduate humanities programs, from the kind of learning that you do in undergraduate humanities program who don't necessarily need a bachelor's degree in humanities, right? So I see us having an undergraduate level badging program, basically, where people who, it would be like the next level up from the PATH program, where you, so, you know, you're doing basic writing in Signum Path, right? So then you go on and you do advanced writing. So you can do, you know, we could have badges in creative writing. We can have badges in expository writing. You know, as we you know, we can have badges in archival research and writing. You know, for those things. And these are all things which, you know, might not be quite as broadly applicable as the Signum Path programs, but you know, the Signum Path badges. But they would still have a lot of applicability to many different places. You know, there are definitely multiple careers for which practice finding and identifying excellent resources, integrating that information and presenting it in a persuasive way. That's a really important part of what they need to do, right? So we would have a badge for that, so that you can show that you have those skills, and they would be worth credits, right? So you know, so I can see several different sort of categories of paths that people can take through our undergraduate programs. There might be some people who want to just do badges, right? I'm just, I will take 3 or 4 of your undergraduate classes so that I can get a badge, in research and writing, for instance, just again, or creative writing or whatever. There might be people, again, who would just are going to have, and that's a different level of badge, right? That's it's like an order of magnitude above the path badges, right, which are much shorter and simpler. Where a path badge is maybe 1 total credit, maybe a little bit more than 1 total credit. One of the undergraduate badges would be the equivalent of 9 to 12 credits of undergraduate work. So it's a much more significant kind of accomplishment, would mean more, therefore. Some people would use our undergraduate program for course transfer. This is something I would strongly encourage. Lots of people go to community colleges to get some credits before they go off to do what they want to do. Do that at Signum. By all means, do that at Signum. Take some really awesome undergraduate interdisciplinary humanities programs that are going to help you a lot. Get a good badge or 2, right, in some things that are going to really help you in your future career, whatever it's going to be, and then go off and study somewhere else, and take those credits with you. And then, of course, there will be some who will want to stay and do the bachelor's degree with us and actually get a BA degree, and then maybe go on, and get an MA or PhD, possibly. A subset of them will want to do that. Yeah, exactly, Simon. There are a lot of people who would benefit from undergraduate humanities learning, but don't need a bachelor's degree, and that's why I really dislike the inflexibility of most college programs, where it's like, you can come and get your BA here, or you can maybe take a class or 2 and transfer it out or something, but they're not really thinking about their programs in that way. Their curriculum isn't built that way. And I want to build our curriculum that way as we're developing it. Yeah, cool. Do I have plans to expand into film studies and that sort of media production? Yeah, sure. I can definitely see that coming in. On the one hand, I know, just as I was saying earlier on, I know that there's I have been experiencing over the last several years the temptation to go outside our niche in the Lang and Lit department, in our current program, and add other things that would be really fun to add. And I've been like, no, I want to stick to the niche. I know there's going to be a similar thing, right? When we do our humanities program, and it's going to be tempting to be like, well, you could also add various technical programs and like math and other things, and it'd be like, maybe someday we do that kind of thing, but that's not where I see us going first. I want to really focus on our new niche, which is this humanities niche, and really live there in that, move into and expand into that much larger niche, and then see, where things kind of go down the road. So anyway, that's the plan. That's where we're headed, and I am super excited about it. Let me emphasize. Let me go back for a second to our PATH program, and especially our launch in January, and over the course of the first half of next year. This is one place where you guys, and I mean, by you guys, I mean very broadly, our Signum community as a whole can really, really help. And there are a couple ways in which you guys can really, really help. First of all, anytime you're doing a brand new thing, right? And this is a brand new thing for us. Getting our first, our first group, our first people, our first students, that's going to be huge. I am very convinced that people are going to see the value in this, especially since, by the way, I didn't even mention it, but like tuition rates are still going to carry on being very, very low. Right now, the price point that I'm looking at for our individual programs, like the system referrals and the open registration down the road, is like $200, $225 per mini course. So a badge at Signum Path, like an entire badge, is only going to cost $675 in tuition. So it's a very small amount of money for a pretty significant piece of personal enrichment and professional development. Anyway, so we're doing our low tuition thing. But anyway, as I say, breaking into, I'm confident that people who pursue our program are going to see the value in it and be excited about it. But of course, getting our first students, that's the trick, right? If we can do that, then I am confident that this program is going to work out and that our humanities program is really going to thrive. But we definitely need to start somewhere, right? So what does this mean? This means if you have any ideas of referrals that you could give to us, like companies that you know of or that you're a part of that might be interested in pursuing a program like this, even a kind of on a sort of a pilot basis. When we begin, we're willing to begin very small if we need to, in order to really make sure that we are, delivering these courses as well as we possibly can, and just trying to show people the value of these. So we've got, if you have any referrals to a corporation or to any other kind of group that might benefit from this kind of program, if you know anybody at a school that might be interested in referring people, as I was describing, it doesn't have to be one of the coding boot camps, though. Certainly, if you know anybody involved in those, I'd be delighted to talk with them. But again, if it's, are you involved with a group or part of a professional organization that might be interested in setting up a referral basis to a program like this for the sake of providing the opportunity or encouraging the opportunity for its members or for its employees to, or for its student body to be able to enrich themselves, personally and professionally in this way? Referrals would be super, super helpful right now. I believe that we're going to be able to build some good momentum once we get started. But getting started is going to be tricky. And yeah, Flamifer, absolutely, I hear that suggestion. It is something that I am thinking about as well. If you are personally interested, I know several of you were expressing in the comments interest in some of these courses and some of these badges that we're offering. If these sound like something that you would be really interested in doing, I would be very interested in forming like a beta group, basically. So if you want to sign up for a beta group, if you would like to enroll yourself in one of these programs, we're not going to open enrollment to the general public. Again, we just don't have the infrastructure to throw open the doors and say, come one, come all, and let's advertise and try to market this on the open market. We're not there yet. We need to do a more controlled launch. But again, if we have a group of people who would be interested in doing this, and we can get that together and make it work, that would be lovely. I would be very interested in doing that. Send us an email. If you are personally interested in this. Just send it to info@signumu.org and let us know, and we'll be in touch. Like I said, January is when is the target date for our sort of soft launch of the program, and then hoping to be able to build up, get our first set of students through our initial program there in the first part of the year, and then do the full launch in next September. So yeah, so go ahead and if you are interested, send either information about potential referral. You can either send it straight to me, Corey.Olson@signumu.org, or you can send it to info@signumu.org. I'll get it there too. So yeah, that would be excellent to find out people who either have referrals or suggestions for people that we could approach who might be interested, or people who are interested in participating in a beta group. Either one, let us know, because that would be really fun. So I hope that you have enjoyed learning about, I have certainly enjoyed sharing with you my vision. I can't even tell you, as I've said, about how excited I have been about this program. It has been I don't know. I don't even know what to compare it to. But that sense of this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is the logical next step for Signum. This is how Signum can step out and begin really making a broader impact. And remember, we're not leaving anything behind, right? This new program will enable us to build up our infrastructure so that we will be able to do more of what we do now. Our master's program in language and literature is only going to thrive and grow. Indeed, it's going to become the template which we're going to be copying for future graduate programs in other disciplines in years to come. It's going to be, our Lang and Lit faculty who are currently teaching with us are going to also be, contributing to our undergraduate curriculum and even to our PATH program as well. That's a big part of what we do. So anyway, yeah, and it will never be forgotten. No matter how big our humanities program someday grows and how much we do, it shall never be forgotten that we started off with Tolkien studies and imaginative literature and Germanic philology. That will always be our roots, and that will always be something that we do, and which I hope we do as much of or more than anybody else does. So yeah, I mean, I've long had the goal of being able to provide people, potential students with the best and deepest program in Tolkien studies and imaginative literature and now Germanic philology that is offered anywhere in the world. And this is only going to make that more and more possible in the future. So again, the email, if you want to send an email to express interest to make a referral or to express interest in a beta program, send it to info@signumu.org. Very simple. And of course, we're still in our fundraising campaign. I hope, it's one of the other reasons that I wanted to share this with you. I know that, our fundraising appeal, has generally been, hey, don't you love the Tolkien studies programs that we're doing, the broadcasts and everything and all this, the ways in which we're trying to build a community for, taking fantasy and science fiction seriously and providing these kinds of opportunities. And all of those things are still true. They're as true as they have ever been. But I wanted to kind of share with you this like bigger dream, right? Which that is sort of the doorway to, right? And now that we're stepping through that doorway and heading off into the bright future here down this path, I hope again, that you will consider making a donation to Signum University to help make this stuff possible. These first steps are challenging, right? These first steps are challenging because we have to step out and start this kind of a program without, very likely without funding. Maybe some kind of funding will work out. We're going to be applying for, grants and things like that. Maybe we will find something like that. But we're operating under the assumption that we're going to do this as we've done everything all along, as we've always built things at Signum, which is on faith and with the generous support of our donors. So I hope that you will consider, or not even just consider making a donation, which I certainly do, but I hope that, as I know many of you are already donors and have been very generous in your support of Signum in years past and already this year, perhaps, that I wanted to give you kind of the bigger picture, right? To know that you are not only helping to perpetuate and develop one of the coolest, most vibrant communities for the discussion of Tolkien studies and fantasy literature, but you are also really helping to build a future for the humanities and a real difference maker, I hope, in higher education. There are so many people who need help, both schools and students, and I think that if we proceed down this path that we have identified and that we are moving down, we'll be able to really lead the way for what I hope to be some really positive change in the higher education world. All right. So, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining me. Any last Any last questions? So Maple Pine was asking, and I talked about this a bit at the beginning, and I'll come back to it a bit at the end. Are we accredited? Not yet. We are in that process right now, and I'm not permitted to talk about it at all. That's strictly against the rules. Accreditation is kind of like Fight Club in that way. But anyway, yeah, we are definitely in that process. That's one of the things that's been kind of triggering the next steps, because that's what will, if assuming, which I am not assuming, if, as I hope and believe, we are successful in our application for accreditation, then that would enable us to be able to build our undergraduate program much more seamlessly. There's a lot. The PATH program is independent of accreditation. It's not tied with that at all. It's about, and there's a lot that I like about that. It's about the content, right? It's about what we're doing in the courses and the skills that people are acquiring. It's about the journey. It's not about the destination. It's not about the piece of paper you get at the end. And who says the piece of paper that you have is cool, right? It's not about that. Now, at the undergraduate level, that'll be more involved. But again, that's one of the reasons why the launch of the undergraduate program is scheduled for 2021, to enable us ample time, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, to get through that process. Yeah, great question. I'm not sure how to say your name. But yes, not at all sure how to pronounce that. But if someone goes for badges, those aren't for credit. Could they be applied to a degree in the future? Potentially. I can imagine. So remember I said that there's going to be a kind of like an order of magnitude, like a kind of a hierarchical relationship between the badges in the Signum PATH program, those foundational entry level badges, and the badges that we're going to offer at the undergraduate level. I can imagine a system, or kind of we're working this out. I don't have all the details of this ironed out yet, but I can imagine where a bunch of the smaller badges, the Signum PATH badges, could accumulate to equal a badge which could be credit bearing, kind of retroactively. It's not the point of the PATH program. The Signum PATH program is not something that we are intending to be about getting credits towards graduation for anything, or towards any degree. It's not about that at all. But again, when we do have the undergraduate program in place, can I imagine that people who start at the Signum PATH level and begin to accumulate badges and want to continue their studies, that we could find a way to kind of fold that in so that it could account for some credits. Yeah, that's definitely something that we're thinking about down the road. As I say, I can't work it out much clearer than that right now, mathematically, but I can see something like that happening. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, exactly. It's about learning cool stuff and developing important skills, which is the heart of real education. Yeah, I have to admit, one of my personal pet peeves are advertisements for higher educational institutions which focus only on the degree that you get, right? As if the only point, like advertisements which say, come here to get this degree. Like that's all that matters, right? All that matters is at the end of the day, you're going to get this piece of paper, right? And I understand, like it's a return on investment thing, right? Because this piece of paper is going to have a quantifiable value for you, then that's what matters. So that's what we're selling. But that kind of transaction is just, to me, that is very far from the heart of what education should be, right? If you're only in it for the degree that you get at the end, if you're not in it for what you're learning along the way, why do it? Again, I know why to do it, but how sad that is. Really, So, and that's never what I want Signum at any level to be. Even the degrees that we're going to offer, like we are going to offer a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD, but even there, I would de-emphasize the degrees. I can imagine a day in which we don't even call them that anymore. We don't even call them degree programs, and don't even think about them that way. And if that happened, if those degrees of those particular pieces of paper went away, and we ended up sort of thinking about and kind of conceptualizing progress through our different programs differently, I wouldn't be in the least bit disturbed, because again, it's still like the essence would still be there, right? And the essence is the journey. It's not the destination. It's about what you're learning. Yeah. Good. Anyway, good. Katriana says, I was always in it for what I was learning, and ended up with a degree that is not so useful, and I regret nothing. Yeah, good. It's, it's a conversation I've had with, I've had a large number of conversations now with Congress people. I've spent much more time at our state capitol, and I know my way around our state capitol building and the legislative office building. I know my way around there and where the best parking spots are nearby more than I would have expected 2 years ago. And this often comes up, because again, people assume that the current dynamics of higher education are normative, right? Like it's all about the return on investment. Like it's all, we're asking so much of students, like you've got to make sure that what you're giving in return is really valuable in quantitative material ways, right? Or else you're just taking them for a ride. So Congress people are always asking me like, what do students do with your degree? And I'm like, mostly nothing. Like, that's not the point. Most of the people who are in our degree program are in the degree program because they want to learn the stuff, right? The majority of our students don't plan to apply their master's degree from Signum in their profession. We've got people in all kinds of different professions for whom it's really not especially relevant. We've got some who have used it and who do use, who've gone on to PhD programs and in other ways. But again, that's not the point, right? And it's how I always try to answer that question is like, that's really not what we're about. And it's, again, I talked about the freedom that we have as an institution, the freedom that we gain by reducing the pressure on our costs, the pressure on our tuition. One of the great freedoms that we get is that we can say like, hey, like, it's okay. Take courses for fun. Learn stuff just because you want to learn stuff. It's not like you're not mortgaging the rest of your life in order to take these classes. It's fun. That's exactly the kind of thing that we are able to do. And I think it's going to be really cool. Exactly. As Josiah says, they spent long hours in their studies and they gained, well, you will see if they gained anything in the end. Exactly. That is just the kind of adventure that I would like our students to feel that they are embarking on. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. Anyway, that is, so that's the focus. And again, does it seem to, is what I'm saying now, does it seem to contradict what I said before? No, not really. Again, our current program is designed chiefly for personal enrichment. So our current Signum program, our master's degree program, began because people really, really wanted to be able to take courses because they wanted to learn more. And that's what they're doing. What we want to do, the way that we are planning to move forward and really reinvent the study of the humanities is because there is massive importance. There is almost limitless applicability. And we want to help people with that. We want to help everybody see that. We want to show people the value of the humanities. Not because we have to, not because, we're trying to pay off the enormous investment that we're asking people to make in us, but because we are about, helping people in that way. It's at the heart of what we're doing. And it will be like very advantageous in very material ways. But again, even that, it's not about the degree accumulation. It's not about, it's not even about the end point. We want to help along the way, also teach people to broaden themselves and enjoy learning. It's really fun. So, anyway, that's the That's the goal here. So I look forward to hearing from some of you. If there's any suggestions or ideas that you have, please do not hesitate. Any responses or advice or anything like that, we are, very right now. It's October. I almost said September. It's October now, the beginning of October, and we are. Working our way through. As I said, January is the plan for the launch. We have we're working on finalizing our curriculum now, building our structure, planning on, getting our infrastructure support in place. And soon we'll be working on, developing contacts with potential, referring bodies, potential groups who might want to enroll, looking to recruit students. Now is the time for suggestions, for advice, for referrals. That would be super, super valuable for us now. Yeah, awesome. So thanks everybody. Thanks everybody so much for joining me tonight. Thank you, so many of you who have. I just love looking at the attendee list at events like this, because I just love reflecting back on the journey that you guys have been with us on already. And I look forward to your continued fellowship and support as we move forward down this great new adventure that our path is sweeping us off our feet and bringing us down here like Bilbo finally there in the Fellowship of the Ring, or like he always warned Frodo of. So anyway, thanks very much, everybody. And I will see you guys soon. Normal broadcasts this week for most of the week. This weekend, of course, is Middlemoot. So I'm looking forward to being able to see some of you out there in the Midwest this weekend. And I will see you one place or one broadcast or one class or another. I hope to see you guys soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.